everyone, the Android community. Much salute, big ups to everyone. Wherever you're joining us from all over the world, we really give you a humble Mafia and you welcome to another session of the Android community experience because it's a real experience over here. We're giving you real geopolitical analysis based on what is going on in Africa. We only talk from the African perspective and we deal with African issues. Ladies and gentlemen, why most of the world is watching Mali war, something very, very significant just happened in Tripoli, in Libya, because the Horn of Africa is where the whole conversation is now going towards right now. It's no longer about the West African coast and all of that. According to the information we have, Niger Prime Minister Mohamed Ali Lami Zain touched down in Libya, Tripoli. That was yesterday, June 15th, for what is being called a walking visit. According to a lot of people, they called it a walking visit, but based on the rapprochement they had with Abdul Dbeibeh of Libya, the conversation is a little bit more. And a lot of people are celebrating this move. They call it a diplomatic victory. But when you look at the timing, the location, the people who this meeting is, the people who the Nigerian delegation are engaging in Libya, um, it's point to something much bigger than a routine diplomatic handshake between the Nigerian delegation and the Libyan delegation. This is a very, very huge development because why a lot of people are celebrating, they are saying that Niger Republic is choosing a partner and Niger Republic is a country that is beginning to act with so much defiance. You cannot relate with Niger or any of the alliance of Sahel states from a place of superiority. You have to show a lot of respect, and they will decide if they want to relate with you or not. But there is a lot of good to this information, and there are some cautionary tales, most especially the fact that this bilateral meeting could put Niger at loggerheads with after Khalifa, which, in my opinion, is the antagonist in Libya. Niger is making a good move in the interest of Niger, and furthermore, it benefits Libya. Why am I saying this? If you look at everything that makes a state, everybody can argue that Libya of today is a failed state. The post-NATO intervention Libya, in fact, is a debacle of misgiven encomia. But ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the real talk today. So the question a lot of people are asking is why Dbeibeh? Why does Dbeibeh need this meeting? Why is it so important? Because according to the information we had, you know, Libya has been approaching General Tiani for quite a while. They've been sending envoys, and how after who dominates with his forces the southern part of Libya, why the operation of after Khalifa is pushing the hands of General Tiani to pick a side. A lot of people are calling this bilateral cooperation, but a lot of people are equally saying that Niger is now picking a side because Libya is divided into two. So the fact that the Nigerian delegation went for the Dbeibeh and not after Khalifa, it simply means that Niger is picking a side. Do you get what I mean? And when you talk about the open slave market and all other things like that, that is on the side of after Khalifa. That's why I said after Khalifa is the antagonist in Libya. And the protagonist that we are seeing is Dbeibeh. Dbeibeh looks like the real thing. It looks like the real deal in Libya. But ladies and he's the one in control of the Libyan National Force. But that said, what does this mean? What does this move mean for the Alliance of Sahel States? So, Lamizane landed Monday afternoon at Mitiga International Airport. It was received by Taha Buha, that's Libya acting foreign minister. According to information, they met face to face with the GNU, Prime Minister Abdul Hamid Dbeibeh of Libya. The official readout says that they discussed bilateral cooperation and relation. that covers economy, covers trade, cover infrastructural development, that cover investment. That's like Niger investing in Libya, Libya investing in Niger. And when you look at both countries, even with if we can argue that Libya is currently broken, we can equally still say that Libya right now still has something. There is still, the life is still in Libya. It is not, Libya is not completely flat. You know what I mean? So Libya only need the proper guidance. And that is what the people that broke Libya apart, that is what they are fighting against. They don't want Libya to ever come up as a firm, state. And when you look at Niger, I think the moves that the Nigerians are making recently, they are trying to make sure that anything that protects their national security interests, they are making sure that they make all the diplomatic and military negotiation that they are supposed to do, just to make sure that their people are protected and they can move forward. So according to the information, they agreed to reactivate Libyan-Nigerian Joint High Committee, which was something that was broken for a long time. After Gaddafi fell, a lot of relationships, got flattened. Then Bazoum had relationship with, let me say a partial relationship with Dbeibeh, but he had a solid relationship with after Khalifa. But now Chiani is, making a U-turn. And for me, if Chiani can pay a visit to you with his delegation, it says a lot about your reputation. It says a lot about how you move. So, regardless of what the propaganda media try to put to the world, I kind of think this meeting represents Dbeibeh in a very, very beautiful fashion. Now, according to information, this committee has been dormant for a very, very long time. All right. So reactivating this rapprochement between Niger and Libya means that this high level engagement is not just for photo op. They are not just Niger is not just going anywhere just to to do talks and all of that. Now don't forget the same yesterday, the Mauritanian delegation, after leaving Mali, traveling through Burkina Faso, they also paid a visit to General Abdurrahmani Chiani, and General Abdurrahmani Chiani, received the Mauritanian delegation. Now, you see, the meeting of Mauritania in Mali, it left me with a lot of doubts. All right, are they trying to sneak attack again? All right, but the fact that the Mauritanian defense minister and his high level delegation did not stop in Mali, they transited Burkina Faso and they went to Niger, who some people see as the next ideologically, most formidable. You can't really convince them. They know they have a very, very good wealth of intelligence, and if the Nigerians say this is who you are, they mean business when they say this is who you are. So the Mauritanians went to Niger. They equally had similar discussion to what they had with General Assimi Goïta in Mali. I like the way the president of the Sahel, the way they are moving in a very phenomenal fashion. You know what I mean? So they went to General Abdurrahmani Chiani and they talked about security, they talked about intelligence sharing, they talked about collaboration. And this is the big question. The question is, does Mauritania needs to be in good terms with the Sahel state? I think Mauritania needs these three countries than it needs ECOWAS. Ladies and gentlemen, I say this with my full chest and I stand my hand. Mauritania needs Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali. I'm sorry if it hurts you, all right? Because I know a lot of people are listening from different places, but Mauritania needs the three alliance of Sahel states than it needs any other country, all right? Or ECOWAS as an entity, or even African Union. Niger has a lot to offer Mauritania as a country. Mauritanian investors can invest in the gold sector in Niger. They can invest in rare earth minerals. They can invest in coltan. They can invest in, what is it? What we're talking about? They can invest in uranium. They can invest in the petrochemicals. They can invest in a lot of things. Niger is a packed country. You have so much resources packed in that country. And like I always say, it's so unfortunate that for so long, Niger used to be, like when they call you a Nigerian before, we don't call them Nigerian in my country. We say from Niger. You know how they see you? They see you as the poorest. They see you as somebody from like, this mystic, description of hell. Everybody look at you like, man, he look like a Nigerian. When they relate you with any of these states before, people look at you like you are from hell. But with what we are seeing right now, you have to ask a serious. We have to get angry. If you are not angry, if you listen to me and you don't get the reason why I get animated sometimes, then you don't get the you don't get the you don't understand. This is spiritual, because how can it be that you have all these natural resources and you are second poorest country in Africa as of then? But now we can see the transformation. And the reason why this is an untouchable revolution is because this is not some fantasy driven revolution, all right? This is a sort of revolution that people are partaking in this revolution, and people are seeing the manifestation of the revolution. They are seeing the benefit of revolution. So talking about Niger as a country, you are not talking about just Abdurrahman Chiani. You're talking about a fortress. You're talking about a people united in ambition, united in their goals, united in their spirituality, in their culture, in their principles. It's very, very difficult. And they have different organizations that regulate different things, down to religion. So nobody can really, really move, when you are moving, like you are sleep moving. No, you can't do that in Niger. They are very, very smart, intelligent, and very, very reasonable people. We've seen their moves. And we can say from every standpoint that Nigeria Republic is really moving the right way. Let's get back into this conversation because it's very, very important. By design, I see you. And every other person in the Andre community, I see you and I recognize your presence. Shout out to everyone, man. So, according to the information we've been tracking, the real agenda, all right, runs much deeper. You see, when two leaders meet and they reactivate a long broken relationship, this is like unfinished business. And if you look at Niger and Libya, what benefit would Libya serve Niger? Libya, when you look at the geography, Libya could be the Mediterranean corridor for Niger Republic. Niger would not have to do the Beninese travel and all of that. And if you look at the geography of the territory that is being controlled, if you look at the geography of the territory that is being controlled by, Dbeibeh, definitely that Niger is really, really working very, very smartly. Very, very smartly. So this is a reunion with unfinished business. They are not finished. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Khalifa Haftar, that's the marshal. That's the rebel leader in Niger Republic, in Libya, right? Controls Eastern Libya and Southern Libya. This is the problem now. Southern Libya is contested, but his stronghold is the eastern part of Libya. So central Libya to western Libya to northern Libya, like, is controlled by Dbeibeh. The Dbeibeh is like Al Buran in Sudan. So it's the guy that is loved by the people. All right. So according to information, after Khalifa controls eastern and southern Libya, the Libyan National Army, his forces, that's the forces of after Khalifa, include Brigade 173rd and his son Saddam Haftar units. They have been extending control to the Salvador Pass, and that Salvador Pass is the border zone between, Atum and Wadi Bugara, and this is like the border between Libya and Niger Republic. Now, I kind of see that there, if you look at it carefully, what a lot of people are seeing as a problem, I don't see it as a problem. After Khalifa is putting a lot of military personnel in the territory of Libya. He's trying to protect the border of Libya. And Niger Republic is equally doing the same thing right now. But some analysts are trying to shift the conversation. They're trying to say, oh, maybe this can lead to a confrontation. There is no confrontation anywhere. Do you get what I mean? So after Khalifa is doing the right thing. So in March 2026, African intelligence reported that control of southern Libya strains relationship between Haftar and Chiani. Disputes between Haftar clan and the Nigerian president are piling up. Now, African intelligence, let's get it very clearly. You know, that's what we do in the Android community. African intelligence is an open source intelligence, should I call it agency, that brings, information and development in conflict zones and all of that. This organization is sponsored by the US. So you know why they are making up this story. They will never get tired of what they did in Libya. No, it is always one destruction after another. Do you get what I'm saying? So when they tell you things like control of southern Libya strains relationship between Haftar and General Chiani, does that even make any sense? Libya is not encroaching. The Libyan forces and national army are not encroaching into Nigerian territory. The Nigerian forces are not encroaching into Libya. Now, another big question. Why are they trying to control this corridor? The reason is because a lot of people have always used Libya as a crossing point into Europe. Do you get what I mean? So, I don't see a problem, all right, in both military column maintaining territorial integrity. And the reason why this is more beautiful is because it also benefits Mali. The reason is because when you look at the Fezzan Southern Corridor, this is where the Fezzan group is very, very similar to what you have, all right, in the Boj Baji Mukhtar corridor in Algeria. This is where the FLA get their reinforcement from, and they come. All right. So if Niger Republic can enter negotiation with Libya and they can block this corridor, very, very beautiful development right there. So it's not just a win-win for Niger and Libya. It also affects the national security interest of Mali. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for your patience as we continue with this stream. All right. So the Salvador Pass is the most important border crossing between Niger and Libya. Very, very important. And after forces have been consolidating their position, like more of the Libyan forces have been staying in this corridor, and a lot of people are seeing it as escalation and all of that, but I don't see it as escalation. So according to the information in February 2026, armed attacks targeted 3 checkpoints along the Libya-Niger border: Altum, Wadi Bugara, and Salvador. So these 3 staging points were targeted. Military positions were targeted by armed groups from the FLA. Now, it is very, very, according to the Libyan National Army General Command, they made this, they gave this report. I kind of believe that the reason why this attack came was because you should know that in Africa right now, security situation is extremely tense in almost any country, except a few country. Just last week, there were some armed groups moving in from Algeria. They were approaching Morocco, but when they got to the buffer zone, they were leveled. And I think we're getting to that point with the Alliance of Sahel States, where they create a buffer zone between their country and the other country. If you cross this perimeter, you know, there is a sushi for the birds in the sky, you know. So geopolitics is beautiful, and at the same time is very dark. So according to information, it is because of this attack that the Libyan forces have been consolidating their position. So there is an unresolved case of Libyan officer Badreddin Sheridan Medoun that has caused tension between Libya and Niamey over his fate. It was an element that was working for the agents of destabilization in Niger. He was captured and he has been in prison. He has not faced trial, according to information. So, based on Nigerian laws, the chances that he will come out of that case is very difficult. So, and you know, Libya is trying to find a way to, and you know, this current regime you have in Niger Republic, they would not tolerate any stupidity of any type. So, this is also causing some issue between Libya and Niger Republic. So, this visit is very important. It's like trying to reapproach each other, trying to recalibrate their relationship. And I think the best person to approach, in my opinion, I would have approached both sides. All right. But I kind of think if you look at the division in Libya, if you approach after, Dbeibeh is going to look at you a certain way. If you approach Dbeibeh, after Khalifa is going to approach you a certain way. And don't forget, after Khalifa was the sworn enemy of the late son of Gaddafi. After Khalifa is the main puppet, the main asset of the West. There has been a lot of propaganda to frame Dbeibeh as the main puppet, but no, after Khalifa, you know, after Khalifa is the other, you know, they are both puppets, but one is still a little bit more sympathetic towards people than the other. The open air, whatever they talk about, is on the eastern flank of Libya. And that is the sphere of influence of after Khalifa. That said, ladies and gentlemen, here where it gets interesting, Chiani and After were never allies. They have never ever been friends. But they had an understanding in the past. Even enemies show respect. So the understanding was Niger handle his side of the border and, you know, Khalifa handle his own side of the border, which is what we are seeing play out, all right? But because the West would not want this type of association to happen, all right, that is why they are trying to frame the consolidation of both position from their own sovereign territory. From their own sovereign territory, they're trying to see it as like an escalation. I don't know what is wrong in you maintaining your territorial sovereignty and me maintaining my territorial sovereignty. Mm-mm. So, and Chiani does not appreciate, according to Western sources, they say Chiani does not appreciate a warlord packing brigades of armed, you know, combatants on a doorstep. So now Dbeibeh, who is After's chief rival for control of Libya, sees an opportunity. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. But I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. Matter of fact, according to information, in the next 60 days, there will be more development from where they've stopped in this bilateral meeting they just had. We are going to see the development from this meeting. So I see it as the move. I see it as the initial move for Niger Republic to broaden their security architecture. Because, you know, the Akinchi drone, the Aksongo drone, all those military capabilities will not put you where you are supposed to be if you don't have a good, you know, you don't have a good relationship with your neighbor and everybody is not standing on point. It's going to, you know. So Lamizane in Tripoli and all of that, the AES dimension that people are talking about right now, according to information, they said Niger Republic remains. This is according to Western sources. They said Niger Republic remains the most diplomatically active of the three Alliance of Sahel states. You know, I told you that they called Mali the most radical of all of them because it's not easy for them to just approach Mali like that. You know, and the fact that you people attacked you know, you took the defense minister of Mali and the president made himself the defense minister, and you know how the president be moving, you know how the late defense minister be moving, so you know not to play with Mali. So according to information, they said the Niger Republic is the most diplomatically approachable of the three Alliance of Sahel states. According to information, they said why Mali continued to break the resistance of the insurgents group that are trying to build a stronghold in our country. Oh, thank you, brother, for watching, for joining from Sierra Leone. Thank you for joining. So, according to information, they said the UN-backed government in Tripoli is Haftar's government. That's the government that the United Nations backed in Tripoli. So, you know, and Niger visiting Tripoli means that Niger Republic is trying to build a good relationship. And Niger has been working extensively. I think recently they exhumed some bodies of travelers that collapsed in the Nigerian desert that were trying to go to Libya to cross to Europe. A lot of them, they were exhumed from the dust, you know, the sand dunes covered them over time and all of that, you know. It was a lot of them. Some from, you know, exhaustion, from some you know, I saw a lot of things and I'd be like, what happened to these people? A lot could have happened to them in that desert. But, you know, this is part of what Niger Republic is doing just to make sure that things like this don't continue, you know. And that is another, it's another reason. But you know, when you look at the way after Khalifa be moving, you definitely know that he's being paid by the West to stop illegal migration from Africa to Europe. So, according to the information we have right now, we will be looking at the development between the two countries in the next 60 days. They are going to release a joint communique about where they go next from here. And this is seen as a lot of, this is seen by a lot of people as a bilateral breakthrough between Niger and Libya, which is very, very important. Given the fact that Algeria has not been too good with our neighbors. So it is very, very important for Niger to make this move. Now, Algeria on the other side has not been good with the neighbors. I'm talking about Mali and a little bit Burkina Faso, but Algeria is trying to be on the good page of Burkina Faso. But Algeria has a very, very good partnership with Niger right now. Now, how do I see the move of Niger recently? I think Niger is that guy that tries to show everybody that the Alliance of Sahel is not just some hermit republic. It's not just some hermit, you know, confederation hiding themselves somewhere. No. They will deal with whoever they want to deal with as long as that partner comes in being respectful. Don't try to be our masters. We would not try to be your masters, and we will not be your slave ever. And if you look at all of Africa, right? If you look at the entire African continent, I won't lie to you. The AES states, to me, they are the best. You know, statistically, these are the only leaders that cannot be summoned to any part of the world. These guys were not summoned to UK. They were not summoned to Britain. They were not summoned to, you know, France. They were not summoned to the United States. You know, I don't know what I would say, but you know, every other president in Africa, once they become president, you know, they call it a tour, but it's not, you know, they are being summoned. Come and pay respect to your masters. But I can tell you categorically that these leaders in the Alliance of Sahel States, they are very, very educated, they are very methodic, and they are very thorough in how they approach geopolitics. And it is not just being leaders by, the fact that they are military leaders and all of that. No, they are leaders equally because they are very, very wise. If you look at Ibrahim Traore, I won't be surprised. Like, I can tell you that Ibrahim Traore has the knowledge of hold people. The guy is so intelligent to the point where I feel like, how are you able to accumulate all this experience, all this knowledge, all by yourself? And then Mali, it is not just enough. It is not enough for you to rig election and to work your way to the leadership position. It is equally important for you to have good knowledge of history, you know, to be very, very smart, very, very intelligent, to know how to bring people together, yet know how to make sure you are able to bridge the gap and you are able to cut out that point where people take advantage of too much freedom, because we are human beings. Sometimes we go out of line. A lot of people talk about freedom. They talk about freedom. Is it a freedom where people are being, in broad daylight in Europe? Is it that freedom you're talking about? Or is it the freedom in Afghanistan where women no longer, recently I got that information, no longer come out at all? They transition from getting the experience from the women, looking for men that can do what those women could do. They now come into an all men affair. No, no. If you go to the Alliance of Sahel States, you see some of their doctors, their women. You see some of their, government entities, women. They are military women. They are VDPs, women. So that's what we're talking about. A country where the capabilities of everybody can be maximized in the interests of the state. How many countries have been able to tell everyone that? I think in the Alliance of Sahel, that was the first place I am fond of hearing things like, like what you are saying is dangerous for the national interests of the country. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, they care how what you do affects the national interest and integrity of their state. In my country, nobody cares about the national interest. Nobody cares about that thing. Go and do whatever you like. Honestly, I can live in countries like that. And look at that country. Look at how it is right now. Imagine if there was no insecurity. It would be the best place to go, where you are sure nobody will come right in front of your apartment in the morning when you are about to sleep, preaching and shouting and ringing bells to disturb your sleep. Burkina Faso is a sane environment. Mali is. Look at Niger recently. They just told some priests to stop their preaching because they see those preaching as being radical. It's a Muslim country. It's a Muslim-dominated environment. So, families, let's get into what is going on in Mali. That is the most important conversation of today. In Mali, a lot has happened in the last 72 hours on the military front. According to information, the Alliance of Sahel forces have been working tirelessly to stop the insurgents in the Labazenga corridor between Niger and Mali, and the Burkinabe forces too have been supporting. According to information, the biggest tools that they have deployed in this corridor has been drones, to constantly keep surveillance. According to the information I heard from one of the analysts from the Sahel, he said that the surveillance in the Labezenga corridor is 24 hours a day. Like, what they are looking for is the smallest change. Like, according to him, he said the surveillance is so good to the point that what they are waiting for is a sudden change in the configuration of the geography of a certain place. And they are going to send in their ISR vectors that have offensive capabilities to go and really, really confirm what's going on. I kind of think if they are able to solve the problem of insecurity completely, the country will be extremely secured. I don't know if a lot of people get what I just explained. The Labezenga sector is so big, right? And the information he gave me is that they don't have a single drone monitoring the entire place. They have multiple drones. So 24 hours drones that can stay for endurance of 27 hours, right? And according to what he said the Malians have now brought in many Kronstadt Orion drone, more for the purpose of surveillance, all right? Because when you use the TB2, the Akinshi, the Aksongo, the Kronstadt Orion, when you use them for just ISR purpose, they will use the maximum amount of endurance time they can use. So when you see that Baraktia, when you see that Tai Aksongo can spend 60 hours up in the sky, that is not the amount of endurance it can absorb if you are carrying all the TNTs. If you're carrying all the TNTs, I think it goes down to 16 hours. But if you're not carrying any TNT, you are just using it for surveillance, then it can stay for over 60 hours. But according to the information he gave me, he said that they have multiple drones around the Labezenga sector. So after some time, some drones leave, but before they leave, there is another drone coming in to replace the drone that is leaving. You ask a question, how is it possible that when you look at all these air strikes in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger, how is it that they know exactly the time when the elements are going to arrive in certain location? According to the latest information from Mali, they said there was multiple strikes in different locations. So you ask the question, how were they able to spot the elements in those different locations? Was it intelligence? No. There is a constant surveillance in some places. So, like I said, taking the Labezenga corridor, which is very, very big, is not the main issue. Controlling and maintaining presence, consolidating the build-up there is what is important. And the AES forces have been able to do that. I think more so the operation of the unified AES force have been very, very good. So I think for a country that is developing, all right, from everything I've seen, I can say the AES is a developing confederation. So the fact that they are able to, if they have satellites, if they have been able to boost their technological advancement, then it will be a different ball game. But the fact that they can, in some places, they can switch drones for ISR is extremely. This is a next level, paying attention to details. All right. So he said, "What?" And I asked him. I said, "What are you looking for in these places? When you have this vectors overwatch, like what are the guys on the ground? What are they looking for? The guys in the command control center, like what are they looking for? Are they waiting for the terrorists to pass?" He said, "No." He said they are looking for the smallest shift in the geography. According to him, he said sometimes the elements that are moving, they camouflage their vehicles. Sometimes they cover it with grass and they move extremely slow. Like they move and they pause. All right? And they move and they stop. And they wait for like minutes. And they move and they stop. He said, so you see sometimes that the Malians bring out some communiques that they hit certain vehicles of certain elements, all right, that was carefully camouflaged. Sometimes they cover it in mud and they just leave a small opening where they can see a little bit. So it's almost like the same color with the sand. The video that have been posted on Departmente recently, go and check Departmente, one of the last video where they said they struck a terrorist leader in Mali, the guy that they just recently took out. If you look at the video, you can't really tell between the sand and the vehicle that was parked there. But the Malians were able to know that he was there. Do you know why? It is because of what I just told you. So the smallest change in what they are saying, it could be the last 5 minutes before the 72 virgin get delivered. So I kind of like this. No, that's a different, you see, those ones that cover themselves with grass and kind of build a tent, those ones are different. All right. And you see, we need to stop playing with the Sahel. We need to stop playing with these countries. And Africans need to stop playing with themselves, because a lot of Africans are playing with themselves. You need good governments, African people. I beg you that you need good government, because if they can achieve this level in the AES, how about you? How about you? Because the funny thing is, you can see Turkey showing them the new drone capabilities that will even improve their operational capability. So they don't need to even go for those fighter jets. Now there are drones that can accomplish the objectives of fighter jet that can carry more payload. That is if they are not doing the asymmetric. If they don't, if they can, that means they can use drones like the Tayak Songo for the ISR, right? And immediately, let's say they see a gathering of over 1,000 elements, they can use the, you know, the fighter jet type of drone that the Turkish have just introduced to the Nigerians, and you can empty your entire payload on the whole 1,000 combatants, and that will be it. There is no United Nations law, securing this type of elements. And it's good that we're now seeing the end of the Iran-US conflict. So Iran now will have enough time to pay attention to the exchange of technology, which was part of the negotiation they already had with the Alliance of Sahel States. So this is a very, very interesting period for the AES countries. And I can tell you categorically that good times are, there is a lot of great things coming. There's a lot of great things coming. So there's a lot of development going on in Niger Republic, Burkina Faso. According to the information we have, in Benin Republic, a former French commander that has now decided to reside in Benin Republic, have now been sentenced to prison. According to information, they have sentenced them to, let me see. I think based on the information we'll have, they sentenced him to multiple years in prison, and he's going to pay a fine of 3,000 euros. All right. I think that's a little bit fair, but to have the cojones to sentence another traitor to, to sentence them to prison in Benin, a former French commander, right? And according to information, the investigation is still ongoing to capture some of his accomplices. Does this mean that Benin is beginning to grow some cojones to take decisions that they would never have taken before? Because seeing this honestly is kind of very, very surprising. If you know you are not legit, don't try to look like don't try to look like it, because it might be very dangerous. But I love this move from Benin Republic. I mean, it shows that Wadagni is not trying to be the puppet forever like Patrice Talon was. So according to the information we have, there is another destruction of a GAT. That's a group. That's a T armed group. You know what T means, right? The truck was destroyed by the Malian Armed Forces aviation in the Timbuktu region. You know, the burnt weapons and equipment were discovered at the site of the attack. You know, like I said, moving through the AES territory, I don't know how by design. I don't know how what happened on the 25th. I don't know how it happened. All right. You know that for that situation to happen in Mali, the infiltration was multifaceted. Some politicians were involved. Some of the military personnel were compromised. Who started deserting the military after the plot got exposed, right? But on a normal day, not on a normal day, on a day, Mali is legit when it comes to the level of surveillance they are now using in certain places. I know that they might not have the capacity to use these technologies all around their territory, but we will see how it goes. You know, time will tell. And according to information, the Malian armed forces have just procured some drone capability. Not, I mean, drone counter capability, sorry. Not the drone counter capability for like huge UAVs. I'm talking about for FPV and fiber optic drone. All right. It's still going to be controlled by humans, but it has radars that detect the drones and it can fire automatically and all of that. So we don't know how many of these capabilities the Malians have procured, but according to information, the Malians have just gotten it. So I wish the Malians, I wish them well in this fight, and we continue to stand on business to support the Malian people, um, and to make sure that the freedom of Mali, you know, nothing stands between Mali and our freedom. According to the information we have in Burkina Faso, training continues of the elite combatants that are now going to be graduating anytime soon. So this is a video of the training and stuff like that. So training continues in Burkina Faso, and you know, I really think for Burkina Faso, right? I have witnessed some of their training session, and I can't lie to you, man. You see Burkina Faso. Man, you are going to need and if you look at the philosophy of Captain Ibrahim Traore, I think you are going to try. Like you are going to do more than try. They quickly, you see, Captain Ibrahim Traore said something during his podcast where what's the name of Yusra Ebage, right? Where she tried to superimpose some type of narrative over Captain Ibrahim Traore, you know, talk, and Captain Ibrahim Traore told her that, you know, in some places the terrorists wear the uniform of our forces to attack civilians and all of that. And you know, they were still going back and forth with this narrative. The Western media, they were trying to, and when last did you all hear Human Rights Watch? The unblessed memory Human Rights Watch. I've not heard them. Where? So the thing is, Human Rights Watch was trying to create this narrative that the forces of the Sahel were attacking civilians. And you know, the Malian operation, the dirty operation they had in Mali exposed everything. Now everybody saw for, you know, we now have a very clear intel of what they have. It's no longer an intel. This is we have clear information. It's now general talk that the elements are being given uniforms to do what they do. You know, they were given uniforms to operate. Burkina Faso was up to speed with this. I think Mali was up to speed with it, but it was a coup in Mali. So, regardless of what's up, when it's the coup, and you don't identify the internal collaborators, no matter how on point you are, because you don't even know if the next guy to you, who you just shook hands with, is part of the plot. You know, the only time you know is a coup is when the guy like, okay, now it's time. You don't, that's the bloody thing about a coup. You don't know who is even next to you. So I think it wasn't about the camouflage. It wasn't, because you ask a question. How was it possible for the Malian armed forces to identify the guys that were wearing their uniform? In the heat of battle, they were able to distinguish who is a Malian personnel and who is not a Malian personnel. You know, so I mean, I still give a lot of credit to these guys at the end of the day. In the heat of battle, where concentration is not the same, where you're calm, your composure is not the same, and you are able to okay, this guy is not mine. This guy is mine. So I think the Malians were up there, but because it was a coup, it was going to be a little bit difficult. I kind of believe that the behavioral psychology of the T boys and the flip flops they were wearing, and you know, some of their trousers, you know, even if you wear that uniform, you won't really move like that because the uniform is not you. You know, it's not just about the uniform; it's about the man wearing the uniform. You know, so so this is what we have today, developing across Sahel. So we'll see what happens in the coming days. We'll see the communique that will be released, because there will be a counter communique from the AES states. I mean, the Nigerians, they are going to, you know, they're going to give us a feedback of their visit to Libya. The Mauritanians, the Nigerians are going to respond to the Mauritanian government. The Burkinabe government are going to respond. The Malian government are going to respond. So whatever outcome we get, I mean, we are going to be staying logged in. We are going to be watching, and we're going to be bringing you this information. So, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to say something right here. Um, my plan for the coming months for the Android community is we'll be having a two-person video, not for the stream, right? Then as times goes on, we'll be having two-person stream where you know, there'll be like, I won't be the one talking about this Libyan issue. There'll be the next person talking about Libya. And when the person is passing, I'm bringing you the information about the scope, the you know, the geography I'm talking about, you know, because my channel have been kind of grouped under the channel that deals with Sahelian, you know, geopolitics. So we want to cover other parts of Africa too. So, but we might be creating another, you know, a program for that. So we'll let you know when it all happens. But I think I kind of like the live stream. I'm trying to develop the stream to where you can be seeing what I'm saying. You know, we can go ahead together. We can, yeah, be on the same page and all of that. So I really appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your time, and I really really thank you for your support. For the new person, like, man, I really need to give a lot of credit to the people of the Android community. I don't even know if I'm competing, because you show that too much love in this community, and I think I got jealous, and because I got jealous, I you know, how when have you seen when last did you see when last did you see a normal video? I think it's been a while, right? And I think our performance and the kind of props everybody gave, I kind of be like, oh, it's like I'm sleeping. It's like I need to wake up and tune up my game a little bit more. So it's kind of challenging, and I like challenges. So thank you so much, and God bless you. I really love you all, and I want to thank our sponsors every day, all day. By Design. I want to thank Ignatius Moore. I want to thank Michael Charles, Cryptography Talk, Simanera, Omaketa, Everyday Omaketa, absolutely. I want to thank Khadija. That's my mom's name, actually. Yeah, my mom's name is Khadija. I want to thank Obsidian Kitty, you know, and Jack V57. I really want to appreciate you. Ex Marcin, we love your no, she not my girlfriend. She my partner, right? This is not my girlfriend. This is like my partner. All right, this is my partner. Like I'm gonna be having my wedding the night of next month, so this is not my girlfriend. So like this is the second capability I got myself. All right, this is the second capability I got myself. I don't look. I don't. I'm. I'm not one of those people that see, um, like I see like from the mental standpoint, and like she's very very intelligent. We've worked together in the same hospital. Like I've seen her performance on the field. I know that like this is a real one. So like I'm not just gonna go out there and say with some ladies that cannot. No no no. This is a very very intelligent person. So like this is a second. I look. I see her as a second capability. I don't know if don't, don't make mistake. I see her as a second capability because man, I'm a capability on my own. So I see, yeah. I'm gonna show. I'm going to. Um, I'm gonna post my wedding and all of that. But you know what is funny about me? I'm not the kind of person that do what we just want to do. It's not like this wedding. No, we're not doing wedding. I don't know if you get it. We're not doing wedding like this thing that everybody does and all that. No. And I really thank God I found somebody that is on the same page with me. What we just gonna do is to go to the registry, sign the deal, get the certificates, do what we gotta do, celebrate with the little people that you know that is there. Like my life, I don't know if I'm too serious. I don't know if I've ever had a break in my life. So that very day, I'm gonna be back with my geopolitical talk. All right, this guy saying you too. Like no, no, no. I'm gonna be back with my geopolitical. Like I don't have that time. I don't have that time to be somewhere and like I'm like when I take days off, it's like I cannot feel myself. Like I don't know how to go off. All right, this is just how I am. This is how I feel alive. This is what makes me feel like yeah, this is good for the day. All right. So yeah, so I really want to appreciate your support. I want to appreciate the support of everyone. um Carol shorts, like you've really tried by design. Man, you've been a phenomenal human. Like let's take it out of cousin. You've been a phenomenal human. Like through the frustration, you can't escape being a celebrity. No, not that. I really need to give a lot of props for the people that is holding this community down, because if you look at the agenda, I think the same thing that happened to me at some point happened to what's the name of this Caballo channel, right? This Ahmad Caballo channel. It happened to him where they kind of froze all that, like it was nothing, and he couldn't pay his workers, he couldn't subscribe to anything, he couldn't do anything. He had to close over. The people in this community, man, they kind of is different. So it kind of keep me going, and it kind of inspired me to continue to fight on. So I really want to appreciate everybody. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to us. So thank you, and God bless you, man. And I'm really thankful that God brought everybody in this community together, because you guys are some of the most high thinking, high level people. I mean, these are not some TikTok group. These are not some. These are not some. These are not the kind of. I love you all, because for you to even see people that think about geopolitics in this TikTok tweeted world is extremely difficult. You know why Nigeria is not moving? Because more than 60% of Nigerians are on TikTok. Yeah, so I really want to say thank you. Don't let me take your time too much. So I gotta go.